My name is Michael Carter. I'm 64 years old, and for 40 of those years, I've worked as a civil architect in Seattle. I designed bridges that connected two shores, museums that stood firm against the coastal wind, and parks where people took wedding photos, walked their dogs, and laughed under the brief summer sunlight of Washington. People said I was a successful man, respected, wealthy, with a perfect family. I lived with Evelyn, the woman I once believed was my destiny, and Nathan, our only son. Evelyn managed everything at home, the bills, the dinners, the rhythm of our daily lives. All I had to do was work, earn, and trust that it was enough. We had a 2-story house overlooking Lake Union, 2 cars in the garage, and yearly vacations in California. From the outside, our life looked like a postcard, a devoted husband, a graceful wife, and a well-behaved son. But inside, the truth was different. I spent 6 days a week on construction sites, the 7th in my office, and sometimes even Sundays, hunched over blueprints. When Nathan was little, I always said, "I'm busy, son. We'll play once I finish this project." But one project always led to another, and another, and another. Evelyn never complained. She knew how to make everything look fine. Her smiles were perfectly timed, her words always calm, her gaze warm enough to convince me we were happy. And Nathan, quiet, thoughtful, a boy who loved coding and living in his own world. I never asked what went on in his mind. I thought paying for his tuition, buying him a new computer, and keeping food on the table was enough to call myself a good father. Now, looking back, I realized something devastating. I built dozens of structures that still stand strong across this city, yet I never built a single bridge between my son and me. I was too busy pouring concrete to notice the cracks forming at home, too blind to see that some things, once lost, can never be rebuilt. And I didn't know then that only a few months later, everything I believed in, my career, my marriage, and my illusion of being a good father, would come crashing down. 3 months after my 64th birthday, the quiet life I thought I had built shattered in a single morning. It was a Monday. I woke up at 5:30, made myself a cup of coffee, and got ready for work like always. The sky over Seattle was gray, drizzled with the usual misty rain. I remember the exact moment my phone rang, 6:02 a.m. That sound still makes my heart tighten every time I hear it. It was Evelyn on the other end, her voice trembling, breaking between sobs. "Michael, it's Nathan. He's at the hospital. It's bad. You need to come. Now." I set the coffee down, feeling my pulse hammer in my chest. I drove like a madman through 30 minutes of rain until I reached St. Luke's Hospital. When I got there, Evelyn was sitting in the corridor, pale as a ghost, her hands clasped so tightly they were bleeding. She only said 2 words. "He's gone." Nathan, my only son, was dead at 31. The report said sudden cardiac arrest. No warnings, no accidents, no final goodbye. Just sudden. I stood there for hours, staring at the white sheet covering his body. I couldn't cry. I couldn't even breathe. It felt like the entire world had gone dark. 3 days later, we buried him. People came, offered condolences, said words that meant nothing. I shook hands, nodded, smiled faintly. A hollow man in a suit. And then, as they began lowering the coffin, Evelyn turned toward me, her face twisted with fury and grief. She pointed her trembling finger right at me and screamed, "You killed him, Michael. It was your indifference that killed our son." Every head turned. Every eye was on me, cold, accusing. In that moment, it felt like the ground had disappeared beneath my feet. I didn't argue, because deep down, I believed she was right. I wasn't there when my son needed me most. And from that moment on, guilt became the invisible sentence I would carry for the rest of my life. After the funeral, the house by Lake Union became unbearably silent. No footsteps from Nathan, no Evelyn calling me down for dinner, just the ticking of the wall clock and the endless sound of rain. Days passed, then weeks. I didn't return to work. The phone kept ringing, colleagues, clients, friends, but I didn't answer. I just sat by the window, staring at the gray water, wondering how a man was supposed to keep living when his only son no longer existed. One afternoon, Evelyn got a call from the insurance company. I heard her voice faintly through the office door. "Nathan's life insurance has been approved. $500,000. I'm the sole beneficiary." She didn't cry. She didn't even tremble. She just said, "Thank you," and hung up. 2 days later, she came downstairs carrying 2 suitcases. I'll never forget the way she looked at me when she said, "I want a divorce, Michael, and I want you out of this house today." I tried to stay calm. "This house is in my name, Evelyn." She gave a thin smile, then pulled a piece of paper from her coat pocket. "Nathan left a letter saying he never forgave you. My lawyer says with that, and the witnesses from the funeral, I can prove emotional abuse. I can take everything you own. So what's it going to be, Michael? Walk away quietly, or let me destroy you in court." I looked at that paper, at the woman who had once been my entire world, and realized I no longer had the strength to fight. I packed my things and walked out of the house that had been both my greatest pride and my biggest illusion. I rented a miserable studio apartment in an old neighborhood, 1 room, a moldy kitchen, a leaking bathroom. I slept until noon, drank cheap bourbon until I blacked out, and repeated it every day. Time moved like stagnant water, heavy, rotten, lifeless. And in that suffocating darkness, I truly believed my life was over. 6 weeks after I left the house, my phone rang one Tuesday morning. I was sitting in the middle of a cluttered room, empty bourbon bottles rolling on the floor, my head pounding. On the other end was a calm but firm male voice. "Mr. Carter, this is the building manager where your son used to rent. We're preparing to relist the apartment. Could you come and collect Nathan's belongings?" I wanted to say no. I didn't want to face the smell, the silence, the ghost of him in every corner. But the man added gently, "If you can't come, we'll have to dispose of everything. I'm sorry, it's policy." That afternoon, I went. The building stood in Fremont, old, damp, smelling of mildew. Nathan's apartment was on the 3rd floor, no elevator. When I opened the door, a wave of stale air hit me. Dust, paper, and something else. Loneliness. Everything was still exactly as he'd left it, a jacket on the chair, his laptop open, a cold coffee mug on the desk. I began to pack his things into boxes, clothes, books, a few childhood photos. Each item felt like a punch to the chest. Then I noticed the large bookcase against the far wall. Some instinct made me move it aside, maybe just to feel useful, maybe out of restlessness. I pushed the heavy wood frame, and behind it I heard a faint metallic sound. There it was, a small metal door, painted the same color as the wall. My heart started to race. I knelt down. A hidden wall safe. Why would my son need a safe? What could he possibly be hiding from everyone, even from me? The question itself made my stomach twist. I tried Nathan's birthday. Wrong. Mine? Wrong. Finally, on impulse, I entered our wedding anniversary, 09/11/1989. A soft click. The door opened. Inside were stacks of crisp $100 bills, neatly arranged. I counted quickly, $150,000 in total. Beneath them were 3 flash drives labeled 1, 2, and 3, and a white envelope with trembling handwriting. For Dad. I sat on the floor, my hands shaking as I opened the letter. Nathan's voice echoed in my head as I read each line. "Dad, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I need you to find out the truth about Mom. Everything is on the 3 flash drives. I'm sorry I wasn't braver. And I love you. even when you thought I didn't. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. For the first time since his death, I cried, not just from pain, but from fear. Fear of what those words might reveal. I placed the flash drives, the letter, and the money into my coat pocket. Before leaving, I looked back once more. The pale light from the window fell on the empty chair beside his desk, and I whispered, "Son, I'll find the truth. I promise." That night, I sat in front of my old laptop, the yellow desk light flickering across the stained wall. The 3 flash drives lay on the table like tiny coffins filled with secrets. I picked the one labeled 1. When the first file opened, a name appeared on the screen, Vid 0105. I pressed play. The footage was grainy, but I recognized the place immediately. Belle Rive Restaurant, the same place where Evelyn and I celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. Only this time, the woman in the frame wasn't there with me. It was Evelyn, wearing the same blue dress I once bought her. Across the table sat another woman, dark brown hair, an intimate smile. They were holding hands. Then they kissed, not a quick, guilty kiss, but a deep, passionate one. I froze. My heart pounded so violently, I thought I'd pass out. I replayed the video. This time, I listened carefully. Evelyn's voice was soft, confident, terrifyingly calm. "Lila, my love, once the insurance money comes through, and with what we've already saved, we'll leave. Lisbon, remember? A place where no one knows us." The woman, Dr. Lila Monroe, the dermatologist Evelyn once introduced as a dear friend, smiled faintly. "And what about Nathan? What if he finds out?" Evelyn laughed, a cold metallic sound that cut through me. "He won't. I've made sure of that." I paused the video. That phrase, "I've made sure of that," echoed in my head like thunder. I clicked on the next file. The timestamp showed 8 months before Nathan's death. The frame shifted. It was our living room. I saw the couch where I used to fall asleep reading, the wedding photo on the wall, our smiles frozen in a lie. Evelyn and Lila sat there, drinking wine, laughing, kissing like they owned the world. Then Lila spoke. "How much longer do we have to wait? I'm tired of hiding." Evelyn stroked her cheek and said in a tone as calm as a business meeting, "Be patient, Lila. The old man has to die naturally. If I file for divorce now, I only get half. But if I wait, I get it all, the house, the savings, the investments, plus the company insurance, $200,000. Not a fortune, but enough." Lila chuckled nervously. "You're cruel." Evelyn smiled. "No, I'm practical. With how he works, the stress will kill him soon enough." I stopped the video. I stumbled to the bathroom, collapsed to my knees, and vomited until my throat burned. Not from jealousy, from revulsion. Because I had just heard the woman I once loved talk about my death as if it were a financial strategy. I splashed cold water on my face and stared into the mirror. The man staring back wasn't me anymore. He was hollow, broken, and betrayed. I went back to the laptop. I had to keep watching. I had to know everything, no matter how much it destroyed me. The rest of the files were like knives carving into my sanity, hotel rooms, restaurants, even our bedroom. Evelyn and Lila, laughing, drinking, plotting their new life built on deceit. By the time the last video ended, I felt nothing but cold clarity. The woman I'd called my wife had never existed. She was a mask, a stranger wearing Evelyn's face, sharing my bed, sharing my life. And as I sat there in that flickering light, one thought began to form, dark, inevitable. If she could talk about my death so casually, was Nathan's death really natural? I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, the images from the first flash drive came back. Evelyn's kiss, her laughter, her cold words slicing through my chest. Around 3 a.m., I decided to open the second drive. I needed to know everything. I needed to understand why Nathan had left me these. and why he warned me about his mother. When the screen lit up, I saw Nathan's face, thinner, paler, eyes sunken with dark rings beneath them. He was filming himself on his phone, inside the same apartment I had cleaned out. Behind him, a gray curtain swayed slightly. A desk lamp flickered. His voice trembled. "Dad, if you're watching this, it means things have gone too far. I know Mom won't stop, and I'm not sure how much longer I have." He inhaled shakily. "I have to confess something. 3 years ago, I stole $40,000 from my old company to pay off gambling debts. I was stupid, scared. I planned to come clean. But Mom found out. From that day on, I wasn't free anymore." Nathan's voice dropped lower. "She used it to control me. Said if I ever told anyone anything, she'd report me and I'd go to jail. I thought she was bluffing, until strange things started happening." He pointed to his laptop. "I checked your bank statements. Every month, small withdrawals, 5, 7, 9,000, from different branches. I traced them. They all led to a fake company, Eleanor Consulting, LLC. The next file showed spreadsheets, signatures, transfers. Dad, this is Mom's company. She forged your e-signature, slowly siphoning money over 5 years, more than $250,000. My fists clenched, my chest tightened. My son, the quiet boy I thought had drifted away from me, was the only one who saw everything. While I was busy looking at blueprints, he was the one mapping the truth. I hired a private investigator. Mom and Lila have a joint account in Portugal. They've been planning to leave the country right after either you or I disappear." Nathan lowered his head. His voice broke. "Lately she's been saying, I look pale, weak, like Grandpa. She gave me red pills, said they were vitamins. I didn't take them. But a few days later, I saw the same bottle back in my cabinet. That means she has a key. Dad? I think she's poisoning me, slowly, with something that hurts the heart." He tried to smile, but tears streamed down his face. "Dad, I know you wouldn't believe this without proof. All the emails, files, videos, they're on these drives. If I die, don't believe her. Take them to the police, and don't blame yourself. I never hated you. I just didn't know how to tell you I needed you." I sat frozen, the blue glow of the screen reflecting off my tears. I had never heard my son speak to me like that. No anger, no resentment, only love and fear. In another folder, Nathan detailed his investigation. Bank records, Evelyn's emails, and medical prescriptions from Dr. Emmett Hale, the same doctor who had treated him. That name appeared again and again, alongside drugs I didn't recognize. The puzzle pieces began to align. Evelyn, the woman I thought embodied grace and warmth, was nothing more than a masterful deceiver. She smiled, cooked dinner, said she loved us, while quietly draining the life from her own family. When the video ended, I sat there in silence. Nathan's face was frozen on the final frame, his eyes locked on mine, as if saying, "I trust you to do the right thing." I pressed my palm against the screen and whispered, "I won't fail you again, son." I sat motionless in the dark for nearly an hour, staring at the blank screen after Nathan's final video ended. In front of me lay the 3 flash drives. 2 opened, 1 left, untouched, as if waiting to destroy whatever remained of my humanity. I took a deep breath and inserted the 3rd one. There were only 3 files, 1 video, 1 audio recording, and a folder named Proof Final. I opened the first video, the date, 2 days before Nathan's death. Nathan appeared on the screen, pale, sweating, breathing heavily. "Dad, I feel really bad," he said, voice trembling. "I think Mom did something. I don't know when or how, but my heart's racing, my chest hurts. I went to Dr. Hale. He said I'm fine, but he's lying. He's with her." He paused, staring straight into the camera. I know I'm going to die, Dad, but at least I recorded everything. When the truth comes out, please forgive me. I love you." The image flickered, then went black. I couldn't breathe. My hand hovered over the keyboard, afraid to continue. Then I clicked the second file, a hidden camera recording. The footage was shaky, the camera pointing toward our kitchen. The timestamp, 8 days before Nathan's death. I saw Evelyn standing by the counter, holding a mortar, pestle, and a red pill bottle. She ground the pills into fine powder, poured them into Nathan's favorite mug, the one with his college logo, then filled it with coffee. Moments later, Nathan entered, smiling, greeting her with a hug. She handed him the mug, watched as he drank, her expression disturbingly calm, almost pleased. I shouted, slammed the table, tears spilling down my face. I had slept beside that woman for 30 years, never realizing I was lying next to a monster. Then I opened the third file, an audio recording. 2 voices, Evelyn and Lila. "Are you sure it'll work?" "Completely. Hale said a few days and his heart will stop. I'll be there to call 911, cry, play the grieving mother. Everyone will believe it. Then I'll blame Michael, say he broke his son's heart. They'll all take my side, Lila. They always do." Laughter followed, cold, twisted. "Then we leave for Lisbon, nearly $1 million, enough to live like queens." I stopped the audio, but my whole body trembled. Not from fear, from rage. For months I had blamed myself for Nathan's death. I thought it was my punishment for being an absent father. But now I knew he hadn't died. He'd been murdered by the woman who gave him life. I sat there for a long time. The room was silent. The bourbon bottles on the floor gleamed under the flickering light, and in that silence I made a vow that felt like the only solid thing left in my shattered world. Evelyn will pay. For Nathan, for everything. I pulled the flash drive from the laptop, slipped it into my pocket, and stood up. The mirror beside the desk reflected my face, not the broken man I had been, but a father reborn through grief, sharpened by fury. I sat through the night, the pale blue glow of the laptop flickering on the cracked wall. Beside me lay the 3 flash drives, proof of betrayal, murder, and lies. I knew I couldn't go straight to the police. Evelyn was too clever, too respected. If I just showed up with some videos, they'd call me a drunken old man chasing ghosts. I needed a plan. I needed undeniable proof. I stood up, walked to the sink, and poured the remaining bourbon down the drain. The smell of alcohol mixed with the metallic scent of resolve. The man staring back at me in the mirror wasn't the weak Michael Carter anymore. He was Nathan's father, a man reborn from grief, ready to burn the world if that's what justice required. The next morning I began to move. First, I backed up all 3 drives onto 3 separate hard disks. One I locked in a downtown bank safety deposit box. One I mailed, certified, to Mark Jensen, Nathan's best friend, the only person I still trusted. And the last I hid inside the engine of my old car. If Evelyn found me, at least one copy would survive. Then I went to find Mark. He worked at the same tech firm Nathan had. When he saw me, his eyes widened. "Mr. Carter? God, I'm so sorry about Nathan." We sat in a quiet cafe. "Mark," I said, "I need the truth. In his last weeks, did Nathan tell you anything?" He hesitated, eyes darting down. "He was scared, sir. Said his mom was threatening him. He gave me an envelope and told me to hand it to you if something ever happened. But after the funeral, everyone said you were to blame. I didn't know what to do." I took a breath, steady but heavy. "Mark, Nathan didn't die of a heart attack. He was murdered, and I need that envelope." Mark froze. "Murdered? By who?" "His mother." The color drained from his face. Then, slowly, he nodded. That evening, he brought me the sealed envelope. Inside were bank statements and a key to another safety deposit box. The next day, we went together to the bank. Inside the box were Nathan's medical records, originals from Dr. Emmett Hale's clinic, along with invoices and prescriptions. Every one of them bore Evelyn's signature under medical guardian. She had requested vitamins for cardiac health, but the active compound was digoxin, lethal in prolonged doses. I took everything to Harold Reeves, an old college friend and criminal attorney. After reading and listening to my account, he leaned back and said, "Michael, if this is true, you don't just have a murder case. You have insurance fraud, forgery, and medical conspiracy. But to nail Evelyn, you need one final piece." "What piece?" I asked. "A confession, a recording. Get her to talk, and she'll bury herself." The thought terrified me, not because of danger, but because it meant I'd have to face Evelyn again, the woman who had destroyed everything. Harold handed me a small device, a button-shaped recorder. "Stay calm. The arrogant always reveal themselves when they think they're untouchable." That night, I parked outside the house that used to be mine. Through the window, I saw the warm glow of lights, the silhouette of Evelyn moving gracefully. Maybe she was sipping wine, believing she'd won. I gripped the steering wheel. "Tomorrow, you'll hear your own voice? In court." I started the car, the engine rumbling like thunder beneath me. Justice was coming, slow, inevitable, unstoppable. The next evening, I wore my oldest suit and clipped the tiny button recorder Harold had given me. In the mirror, I saw not a broken husband, but a father seeking justice for his son. At 8 o'clock, I parked in front of the house that once was mine. The lights glowed warm behind the curtains. My heart pounded as I rang the doorbell. Footsteps. The door opened. Evelyn stood there, younger, polished, her hair curled, her eyes sharp as glass. She looked at me with contempt. "What do you want, Michael?" "Just a few minutes to talk." She folded her arms, ready to shut the door, but I added softly, "It's about Nathan." That stopped her. After a pause, she sighed dramatically. "5 minutes. Then you leave." I stepped inside. The house looked the same, but it no longer smelled like home, only perfume and deception. We sat across from each other in the living room. "What do you want?" she repeated coldly. "I just want to understand," I said. "Why did you tell everyone at the funeral that I killed our son? Did you really believe that?" Evelyn smirked faintly. "You were never there for him, Michael. You killed him with your absence. I just told the truth." I nodded slowly. "Maybe you're right. But have you ever wondered who really killed him?" Her expression hardened. "You're drunk again. Stop this nonsense." "I'm not drunk," I said quietly. "I went to Nathan's apartment. I found a safe. Inside, money, a letter, and 3 flash drives." For the first time, fear flickered across her face. "What flash drives?" "The ones with videos, you and Lila, in the restaurant, in this house, in our bedroom." Evelyn jumped up furious. "You broke into his place? You're insane." "And you poisoned your son," I said evenly. The room fell silent. She froze, then quickly switched masks, tears welling up instantly. "You're sick, Michael. You're imagining things. You're grieving." I stepped closer, voice calm but sharp. "Nathan knew everything, Evelyn. The Lisbon account, the stolen money, the pills, digoxin. You remember the red bottle in the kitchen, don't you?" Her face went pale. You have no proof." "Don't I?" I said softly. Silence. Then she laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "Fine. You want the truth? Here it is." She sank onto the couch, drained her wine, and looked up at me with eyes full of venom. "Yes, I was with Lila. Yes, I took your money. I earned every damn penny after 30 years with you." I said nothing. "And Nathan?" She exhaled. "He got in the way. He found out. He threatened to tell you. I couldn't let him ruin everything. I whispered, "You killed our son." She stared at me, emotionless. Dr. Hale did the medical part. I just made it happen. It was quick, clean, kinder than the life you gave him. My hands shook, nails digging into my palms, but I forced myself to stay still. All for money? For an insurance check? Her smile was cold. Not just money, freedom, love, two things you never understood. I looked at her for a long time. Then I said quietly, "I understand now. And you know what else? Everything you just said was recorded." Her eyes widened. "What?" I touched the button on my shirt. "This recorder. Every word you said will be played in court." Evelyn screamed and lunged at me, clawing at my chest. I stepped back, watching her collapse to her knees. "It's over, Evelyn. It's really over." "No, you can't do this, Michael. You can't." I looked down at her, the woman I once called my wife, now just a hollow shell of deceit. "No, Evelyn," I said softly. "You did this. To yourself. And to our son." I took out my phone, dialed Harold. "I have everything. Full confession. We're ready." Outside, the rain began to fall. I stepped out of the house, leaving behind the past, carrying only one thing with me: the truth. 2 weeks after the confrontation, Seattle was wrapped in morning fog as I stood on the courthouse steps, holding the tiny button recorder in my hand. Inside it lived a soul. Nathan's soul, waiting for justice. My lawyer, Harold Reeves, walked up and placed a hand on my shoulder. "You ready, Michael?" "Nathan deserves this," I said quietly. The courtroom was packed, reporters, cameras, murmurs. When Evelyn entered, dressed in black, she still wore that mask of control. Beside her sat Dr. Emmett Hale, head down, and Lila Monroe, trembling behind heavy makeup. The prosecutor, Sandra Rhodes, began in a firm, steady voice. "Defendant Evelyn Carter is charged with first-degree murder, financial fraud, and insurance conspiracy. Co-defendants, Dr. Emmett Hale and Ms. Lila Monroe." I sat in the second row, fists clenched. Every mention of my son's name was like a knife to the heart. Evelyn turned occasionally to glance at me, smiling faintly, the same smile she'd worn all her life when she thought she'd already won. Then Harold handed over the flash drive. Sandra connected it to the courtroom projector and said, "Your Honor, this is the recorded conversation between Evelyn Carter and Michael Carter, dated June 17th. The room went silent. And then her voice filled the air. "Yes, I took your money, and yes, I was with Lila. Nathan, he was in the way. I couldn't let him ruin everything." Her words echoed through the hall. Evelyn's face turned white, her mouth quivered. "Dr. Hale did the medical part. I just helped." Sandra paused the audio. "Your Honor, this is a direct confession. Clear, voluntary, undeniable." The defense tried to claim it was edited. But then the prosecution played the hidden camera footage, Evelyn grinding red pills, pouring them into Nathan's coffee. A gasp spread across the courtroom. Some people cried. Evelyn screamed, "It's fake! He made it all up!" Sandra's voice cut through the noise. "Then how do you explain your fingerprints on the mug matching the FBI record exactly?" Silence. Lila lowered her head, shoulders trembling. Dr. Hale covered his face. And in that moment, I saw them all collapse. Not because of the law, but because of the truth. 4 days later, the jury returned. The foreman stood and read the verdict. Defendant Evelyn Carter, guilty of first-degree murder. Defendant Emmett Hale, guilty of conspiracy and medical forgery. Defendant Lila Monroe, guilty of fraud and complicity. Sentencing followed. Evelyn Carter, life without parole. Dr. Hale, 20 years in prison. Lila Monroe, 15 years. The judge's gavel struck. It sounded like thunder, final, absolute. Evelyn turned toward me one last time, No smile, no tears, just emptiness. As she was led away, I whispered, "Nathan's free now, and you're finally where you belong." Outside the courthouse, the sky was astonishingly blue. The wind brushed through my gray hair, and for a moment I could almost hear Nathan's voice. "You did it, Dad." I looked up at the Seattle sky. For the first time in years, I felt no guilt, only peace. Justice can't bring back the dead, but it can prove that a father's love, if strong enough, can conquer even death. 3 months after the trial, Nathan's apartment was locked and silent, like a tomb. I visited it one last time, carrying a bouquet of sunflowers, his favorite. I placed them on the windowsill, took a deep breath, and whispered, "I did it, son, but I can't stop here." Because I knew justice couldn't bring Nathan back, but it could save others like him, victims of manipulation, betrayal, and silence. Together with Harold and Mark Jensen, we founded the Nathan Carter Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to helping victims of psychological abuse, financial fraud, and domestic manipulation. From a small office in downtown Seattle, the first calls began to arrive. A young woman suspected her husband of secretly draining their joint account. A 17-year-old boy whose stepmother controlled every dollar he spent. A single father accused and isolated by his ex-wife's lies. Each story was a wound. And I realized the world is full of Evelyns, people who know exactly how to make others doubt their own reality. I met them all. I listened. I told them Nathan's story, not to make them cry, but to help them believe that truth always finds a voice. Mark handled the data systems, Harold took care of the legal aid, and I, the old man, did just one thing: listen, to remind them they weren't alone. 6 months later, the foundation had helped over 70 people win cases of domestic abuse and financial deceit. Some called us afterward, their voices trembling. Thank you. Because of Nathan's story, I had the courage to leave. At night, I'd sit alone in the office, staring at Nathan's photo on the wall. His smile was still bright, his eyes alive, as if watching over everything we built. I whispered, "You see, Nathan, we're saving people, you and I." A year later, we held the foundation's first anniversary. On stage, I told the crowd, "My son died because of betrayal, but he also died because he loved. He believed truth was worth protecting, even at the cost of his life." Today, we carry that belief forward. Behind me, the screen displayed the words, "Nathan Carter Foundation, because truth deserves to live." And in that moment, I didn't feel loss anymore, only pride. I had lost a son, but I found a reason to live and a new way to love. 2 years after the trial, on a cold, damp April morning, I received a call from Monroe State Prison. The warden's voice was calm but heavy. "Mr. Carter, inmate Evelyn Carter has requested to see you. She's in the infirmary, terminal pancreatic cancer. A few weeks left." I said nothing for a long time. It had been 2 years since I last saw that face, the woman who destroyed everything I loved. I didn't know if I should go, but that night I couldn't sleep. In the dark, I played an old recording of Nathan's voice. "I love you, Dad, and if you can, forgive Mom." So I went. 3 days later, I drove 2 hours to Monroe Prison. The sky was gray. The barbed wire stretched endlessly. A guard led me through cold corridors to the infirmary. She was unrecognizable. Her hair was gone, skin yellow, hands trembling. Only her eyes told me. It was still Evelyn, though hollow, empty. "You came," she whispered. "I didn't think you would." "Neither did I," said, sitting down beside her bed. She coughed weakly. "I need to say a few things before I die." I stayed silent. She stared at the ceiling, eyes wet. "I don't regret loving Lila, but I regret Nathan. Every night I see him, at the end of a hallway, just standing there, staring at me. I think that's my punishment. I looked at my hands, the old scars from gripping them too tight. That's not punishment, Evelyn. That's memory. And memory doesn't kill. It just reminds you of what you destroyed. She gave a faint smile. You still talk like an engineer. Rational. Cold. No, I said softly. I talk like a father. Her breathing grew heavier. There's more. Nathan didn't know everything. I didn't steal alone. Someone helped me. One of your friends. I looked up. Who? Erwin Vance, she breathed. He taught me how to forge signatures, move money through ghost accounts. I paid him $100,000. He betrayed you too, and he's still free. I froze. That name was a knife I thought I'd buried long ago. Why tell me now? Because I'm dying. Because you deserve to know every betrayal, even mine. Tears welled in my eyes, not for her, but for Nathan, who had died tangled in lies I never saw coming. Evelyn lifted a trembling hand. Can you forgive me? I looked at that hand, not the one that had once held our child, but the one that had poisoned him. I placed my hand over hers gently. No, Evelyn, I can't forgive you, but I don't hate you anymore either. I just regret that I didn't see the monster sleeping beside me all those years, wearing your face and using my son's love as a weapon. She cried quietly, her breath ragged. Thank you for coming, even if it's only to say that. I stood watching the woman who had once been my wife, now only a dying shell. Goodbye, Evelyn. Nathan's waiting somewhere else, but not where I'm going. I walked out without looking back. Behind me, the beeping of the heart monitor slowed, then stopped. On the drive home, the clouds broke apart. Sunlight streamed through, washing the wet highway in gold, and for a fleeting moment I felt Nathan beside me, silent, calm, free. In that moment, I knew the circle had finally closed. 5 years have passed since Nathan left this world. 5 years since I found the small safe that changed everything, the beginning of both truth and redemption. I'm 71 now. Every morning I go to the Nathan Carter Foundation, sit by the window of my small office, overlooking the plaza, where a large photo of Nathan hangs, his bright smile, his clear eyes, and beneath it the words, "Because truth deserves to live." We've opened 8 more branches across the country. Over 2,000 people have been helped, victims of manipulation, fraud, isolation, and pain. And every time a life is saved, I feel as though Nathan lives again. Mark is now the Foundation's executive director. Harold, hair completely white, still advises us with calm wisdom. And me. I simply sit among these young souls, listening to their stories and seeing light in their eyes. The same light I once saw in my sons. There are days when I still think of Evelyn, not the criminal, but the woman I once loved. I feel no anger, no pity, just a quiet sadness like looking at an old faded photograph. She died 3 years ago. When I heard, I stood by the window and whispered, "It's over now, Evelyn." Erwin Vance, my former partner, is serving his 15-year sentence. I attended his hearing last year, said nothing, just nodded once. When he lowered his eyes, I knew justice had truly come full circle. Every week I visit Maple Hill Cemetery with a bouquet of sunflowers. I sit by Nathan's grave and talk to him, like when he was still alive. Today we helped 3 more people. A 14-year-old girl escaped her abusive foster mother. A wife found proof she was being poisoned. A father regained custody of his child. You see, Nathan, we're still building bridges, but now, between hearts. I smile. The boy who once dreamed of creating software to make the world better is doing exactly that, through me. I take out the small flash drive I always carry, not to remember death, but to remember why I'm still alive. Sometimes, late at night, I replay Nathan's last video, the moment he whispered, "I love you, Dad. Don't let her win." I smile every time I hear it, not from pain, but from knowing that he won, not through revenge, but through truth, compassion, and courage. As I leave the cemetery, the sun rises behind the trees. Light filters through the branches, touching his name on the stone, making it glow like a lantern in the fog. "Goodbye, son," I whisper. "I'll see you again." But not yet. There's still work to do, still people to save. I walk away, my steps slow but steady. On the cobbled path, I feel something soft, like wind, like a small hand resting on my shoulder. And in that moment, I know for certain, a father's love doesn't die, fade, or vanish. It becomes light, guiding those still lost in the dark, just as I once was, and just as Nathan once led me home.